Diary. It's a Fights in Football Friday. My name is Peter Klein. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Doing something a little bit different with Fights in Football Friday this week. We are going with the two-parter for this one. So part one is going to be all NFL. Part two is going to be all fight stuff. You know all the rest. Social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm at Primetime Klein. Twitch.tv/PrimetimePK. You can email this show, couchpotatodiary@yahoo.com. Let's look at the week ahead in the NFL and talking football. All right, let's look at the National Football League slate here. We'll run through all the games. Not all of them are going to be as detailed as we normally do, just because not every game matters as much. So you'll figure those ones out as we go along. But we start in the AFC North with the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Baltimore Ravens. The Steelers are favored by 3 points in this game with the total at 35.5. Pittsburgh clinches a playoff spot with a win and a Buffalo loss, or a win and a Jacksonville loss, or a win and a tie between Houston and Indianapolis. On the Baltimore side, they've clinched the 1 seed in the AFC. And that has led a lot of people to thinking, well, look, Pittsburgh has everything to play for. Baltimore is going to be resting people. Who cares, right? Well, remember last season, Green Bay had everything to play for going up against Detroit, who admittedly had some stuff to play for. But Detroit goes on and beats the Packers on Sunday Night Football, eliminating the Packers from playoff contention. I know there are going to be some starters sitting for the Baltimore Ravens, but this is a Ravens team that A, is incredibly deep, B, doesn't let off the gas pedal just because starters are sitting. And we've seen before, Huntley can come in for a game or two and be a very effective player at the quarterback position. I think that happens here. And this is a Pittsburgh offense that's looked better the last couple of weeks under Mason Rudolph, but overall, this offense has still really, really struggled, and the Ravens have been tops in weighted DVOA. So I look at this as a game that I think the Ravens still take. So my play on this one, and it's a pick that I've clicked, is Baltimore on the money line, plus 148. Houston taking on the Indianapolis Colts. The Texans favored by a point, and the over-under is at 47.5. The Houston Texans can clinch the AFC South, with a win or a Jacksonville loss. They also, I think that's win and. They also just clinch a playoff spot with a win. Indianapolis, they clinch the AFC South with a win or Jacksonville loss as well, and clinch a playoff spot just with a win. Real interesting matchup, as these two teams have been kind of close all season long, and both teams I think are much further along than people had anticipated. I think the big difference in this game is going to be on the defensive side of the football. You have a Houston Texans team that overall defensively is not amazing, 16th in defensive EPA per play, but 7th in defensive success rate, going up against an Indianapolis defense that has struggled defensively all season long. They're 19th in defensive EPA per play. You look at weighted DVOA, which factors in how they're playing recently, and the Houston Texans are 12th, while the Indianapolis Colts are 22nd. I just think at the end of the day, this defense isn't going to be good enough to get the stops that they need to get off of the field and allow Gardner Minshew and their offense to try to go at a Houston Texans defense that's playing a little bit better under D'Amico Ryans this season. So I think the Texans take this one. This is another pick I clicked. It's Houston minus a point on Saturday night. We go to the Sunday schedule. The Cleveland Browns have clinched a playoff spot, and the Cincinnati Bengals have been eliminated from one. So I am saying Cincinnati is favored in this game by 7. The total is at 37.5. I think Cincy probably wins this. They're going to be playing their starters. I think Cleveland is going to be resting a lot of people in this game as they get ready for the postseason. So I think Cincinnati does pick up a win in this game, and we'll say Cincinnati minus 7, but this isn't going to be a game that I play. Tampa Bay taking on the Carolina Panthers. The Buccaneers favored by 4.5 points with a total of 37.5. It's simple for Tampa Bay. They get in with a win. They clinch the NFC South. With the victory, Carolina has been eliminated for a while. This Panthers team, every stat you can look at, they are in the bottom 7 in the league, most of them in the bottom 3. It has been a putrid year out in Carolina, and Tampa Bay now has an opportunity to take advantage of that. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 12th in EPA per play. They're 16th in weighted DVOA. The defense has been a little shaky at 21st in defensive EPA per play, but this has been a really strong year for Tampa Bay. I think they're going to be able to go out. I don't think there's going to be a banana peel slipped on in this game. I think they get the job done. Tampa Bay, minus 4.5. That is a game that we're clicking on. The New York Jets taking on the New England Patriots. New England favored by 1.5. Both these teams have been eliminated from playoff contention. For New England, there's a lot of talk like Bill Belichick. This may be his last game with the Patriots. He's not going to lose his last game with the Patriots against the Jets. He hates the Jets. I just feel like the Jets are a slightly better football team than the Patriots are, and now that hasn't mattered at times throughout this run, but I think that Robert Saleh is the type of guy who's going to have his team up for this final game of the year, and I think the Jets at least cover plus 1.5, but again, nowhere near this game from a gambling standpoint. Minnesota taking on Detroit. The Lions are favored by 3.5 points, and the total's at 46. The Lions have said they're going to be running out their starters despite the fact they have clinched everything that they can. Minnesota clinches a playoff spot with a win and a ton of help. They need a win and a Green Bay loss, a Seattle loss, and either a Tampa Bay loss or a New Orleans loss. Either of those get them into the postseason. Either of those combined with the other things we mentioned. So it's win plus at least 3 teams losing to get Minnesota into the playoffs. It sounds like they're going back with Nick Mullins for this game. Detroit has played quite a bit better than the last little bit, and I expect them to continue to play better in this game. I think Detroit covers this. We'll go Detroit minus 3.5. Notebook sound. Jacksonville taking on the Tennessee Titans. The Jags favored by 3.5 points with an over-under of 41.5. Jacksonville, it's very simple. They clinched the AFC South with a win, while the Tennessee Titans have already been eliminated from the postseason. A lot of people getting very excited about Mike Vrabel getting his team fired up this week and getting them to, like, they're going to really try really hard to upset Jacksonville. And Jacksonville has been trending downward for a while now, and we're not sure, even if Trevor Lawrence plays at the quarterback position, what Trevor Lawrence is going to look like at the quarterback position. But I do think everyone just needs to deep breaths on this. Jacksonville is a better football team than Tennessee is. And if this was week 15, I think a lot of people would be taking Jacksonville minus 3.5. So I think there is a little bit of just, I think there's people hoping that they get either Indy or Tennessee or the Houston Texans into the playoffs, and I think they're kind of guiding their handicap that way. The Jags, it's the defense that has been strong this year. They are 13th in defensive EPA per play. They're 8th in defensive dropback per EPA per play, or EPA per dropback, sorry, on the defensive side of the ball. 3rd when it comes to success rate against the run. I just think they shut down what the Tennessee Titans try to do, and Tennessee is 30th in defensive EPA per dropback and 30th in defensive success rate on dropbacks. It's just not a good defense. So I am leaning towards Jacksonville minus 3.5, but I think the obvious play in this game is actually the under at 41.5. But I think if we're doing a pick'em contest, I think Jacksonville does win this game. The NFC South could be on the line in this game as the Atlanta Falcons take on the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans is a 3-point favorite in this with a total at 42.5. Both these teams clinch with a win and a Tampa Bay loss. On the Atlanta side of things, this has been a very frustrating year. They're 26th in EPA per play. Defensively, it's been fine. They're 7th in defensive EPA per play, 4th in defensive success rate. But weighted DVOA puts them at 26th in the NFL. On the New Orleans side, the offense has been mid. Basically, any stat you click on, they're 15th or 16th in the National Football League. But defensively, 5th in defensive EPA per play, 5th in defensive success rate, and they are 19th overall in weighted in weighted DVOA. I think they are just simply a better football team. I think this defense absolutely smothers anything that Atlanta would try to do in this game. I would imagine the losing coach of this game gets fired, and both coaches could, quite frankly. But I just think that New Orleans' defense shuts down what Arthur Smith is going to try to do on the offensive side of things. And I think Derek Carr and this New Orleans offense will be able to get enough to cover 3 against Atlanta. Dallas taking on Washington. The Cowboys favored by 13. The total sits at 46.5. Dallas clinches the NFC South with a win, while Washington has already been eliminated. Dallas, because they're in the driver's seat, they're going to be starting their guys, and it is going to be, I think, pedal to the metal and all of that. While Washington, it feels like they've kind of quit. Sam Howell is back in at quarterback as Jacoby Brissett went down with an injury. I just feel like this Dallas team is going to absolutely annihilate Washington and send Ron Rivera packing out with the Commanders. Dallas picks up a big win at -13. The Kansas City Chiefs taking on the LA Chargers. Chargers favored by 3.5 with a total of 35. LA is going to be playing their guys. The Kansas City Chiefs won't, as they've clinched basically everything they can, while the Chargers are giving it one last go. But it's this season and it's the Chargers. I'm not trusting them with anything in this spot. Give me Kansas City plus the points at 3.5. Denver taking on Vegas. Both teams eliminated. Vegas favored by 2.5 points. The total is at 37.5. Just look at how opposite both these teams are right now. Vegas, everyone's fighting for their coach. They want Antonio Pierce to get this job. Denver, it's chaos. It's Sean Payton making a mockery of Russell Wilson in the final couple of games here in the NFL regular season. I just think you don't make a ton of money going off of vibes, but I'm going on vibes here, and I'm going with the Raiders, -2.5. The LA Rams taking on San Francisco. The 49ers favored by 4 points in this matchup with the total at 40.5. You have a team out here with the Rams who have, like, they're not going up, they're not going down. Same with the 49ers. They have wrapped up the 1 seed, so San Francisco is probably going to be playing a few of their guys in this spot. So both teams are probably going to be resting a lot of guys, though. Still, I'm saying San Francisco still gets the job done in this spot. The Philadelphia Eagles taking on the New York Giants. Eagles favored by 4 with a total of 42.5. The Giants have been eliminated long ago. The Eagles clinched the NFC East with a win and a Dallas loss. We talked before about how unlikely a Dallas loss is. I think a lot of people are anticipating Philadelphia is going to rest a bunch of their guys, and they probably will for a bit, but I do think that their starters are going to get some run in this game, and they're going to try to figure out what's been ailing them the last little bit. So I think Philadelphia gets a win in this spot. I think the Eagles cover -4.5. Big one out at Lambeau. Chicago taking on the Green Bay Packers. Packers favored by 2.5 with a 45.5 point total. Green Bay clinches a playoff spot with a win. Chicago has been eliminated. The Bears have been playing a lot better as of late. I think some people are overinflating how much better. With Chicago, their EPA per play overall is 21st in the NFL. If you just shorten the window for the last 5 weeks, it's still 18th, which is better, but not great. And I think that this is a Chicago team that has relied a lot on their defense for a lot of the success of the last little bit. Justin Fields has been playing a lot better, but I think people are maybe overinflating this a little bit just to make a bit more drama out of what can happen with this quarterback battle. But still, like, the offense is moving the ball well, and that's a concern against Green Bay, who is 24th in defensive EPA per play, 28th in defensive success rate. You look at weighted DVOA, which factors in how they've been playing recently, weights it more than some of the other games that happened earlier in the year. Chicago's 7th and Green Bay is 20th. I think a lot of points could be scored from Chicago, and I think Green Bay may have some trouble against the Chicago defense. I'm going with the Bears with the upset. We're going with Chicago +2.5, and we'll put a little bit of a sprinkle on +135. The Seattle Seahawks taking on Arizona. Seattle just 2.5 point favorites against Arizona with a 47.5 point total. Seattle clinches a playoff spot with a win and a Green Bay loss. Arizona has already been eliminated. I have said on this show a number of times, Seattle concerns me with how they have played for the back part of this season, and Arizona has been coming on as of late. That doesn't mean they're equals. I think Seattle still gets the job done in this spot, and Seattle gets the win and the cover, -2.5. And that takes us to the game of the night. Sunday night, it is Miami taking on the Buffalo Bills. The winner clinches the AFC East with a win. Depending on how things go throughout the day, there's a chance Buffalo misses the playoffs with a loss. So a lot on the line in this game. And these are two of the best teams in the NFL. Miami, 4th in EPA per play and success rate. Buffalo, 3rd in EPA per play, 2nd in success rate. On the defensive side of things, Miami, 15th in defensive EPA per play, Buffalo 10th. I think that's where the difference in this game is. And Miami losing Chubb as a pass rusher in that last game. I have no idea why he was playing, but he was, and he gets hurt. I think that is going to be a big difference in this spot. I think Buffalo, I think their defense is going to be able to slow down Miami enough that their offense can put up some points here. I think Buffalo's offense is a little bit better, and I think their defense is a little bit better. So give me the Bills -2.5, which would hurt greatly, as it felt like we had that AFC East play with Miami all but locked up for our preseason plays. But nonetheless, a good run here for Miami, but I think they do end up losing the division to the Buffalo Bills in this spot. So, what games did we click on? Let's go to a very big today's ticket. All right, it is a busy ticket. I think I counted and there's 14 games on here, but it's the weekend, and that's what happens, right? Starting with Friday night, it is the New York Knicks taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. They have a bit of a spark with OG Anunoby, and I think they're going to be a real interesting team here, and I think they're going to give the 76ers a bit of trouble. So we're going with the half unit on the New York Knicks at +200, but our main play is the Knicks to cover +6. Oklahoma City taking on Brooklyn. Brooklyn's a fine team, but this is a spot where Oklahoma City's better. So OKC, I think, covers 4.5. Miami taking on Phoenix. The Suns are still getting some stuff figured out, getting healthier, but still not all on the same page. Miami is constantly on the same page. That this strikes me as a team that would give Phoenix a lot of problems. So let's go Miami +4.5. And then in the NHL, it is Winnipeg taking on the Anaheim Ducks. Look, the Ducks are bad. They had a real rough time against Toronto last night, and Winnipeg is scoring has the ability anyway to score a ton. I think Winnipeg takes this one -1.5. And then the last one here on the Friday slate is Memphis +4.5 against the Lakers. There's infighting in LA. Memphis, so hot right now. So let's go with the Grizz +4.5. On to Saturday, we already talked about it. Baltimore Ravens +150 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Rangers -1.5 against Montreal. The Habs, it's been a fun story, but I do think they're kind of falling back here a little bit, while the Rangers have the opportunity to have the ability to step up in this spot. I think the Rangers cover -1.5. We have Dallas taking on Nashville. Just saw the Preds as they took on the Calgary Flames. By the way, I was on Game Over Calgary talking about that. Dallas has a bit of offensive firepower. This one is probably going to be a low-scoring game, but I do think Dallas does cover -1.5. Then on the Sunday slate, we're going Houston Texans -1 against the Indianapolis Colts. Tampa Bay -4.5 against Carolina. Philadelphia -4.5 against the Giants. The Chicago Bears money line against Green Bay +135. And Buffalo -2.5 against Miami, with some NHL in there as well. I think this one actually might be a Saturday night game, and I just got my things mixed up. Edmonton -1.5 against the Ottawa Senators. So that is today's ticket, and that's part 1 of today's show. It's a Fights in Football Friday. This was the football portion. We will talk about the fights coming up in a little bit. Some breaking fight news that we will break down on that one. Plus, it's awards time. So we have the best and the worst of professional wrestling, and then the best from MMA and boxing for 2023. You can find me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm at Primetime Klein, twitch.tv/PrimetimePK, and you can email this show, couchpotatodiary@yahoo.com. Make sure, if you're watching on YouTube, to like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you are listening in podcast form, make sure that you subscribe and leave a review. This is part 1. Part 2 coming up in a sec. Bye.